Chocolate and sourdough. I know what you're thinking, and you're wrong. This isn't a dessert. It's not a gimmick. It's what happens when you take a real active starter, real cocoa, and real technique, and you commit to it. The crumb is open, chewy, and deep, and the flavor is something you genuinely can't get from a box or a bakery. If you already bake sourdough, this is your next loaf. Let's get into it. We're starting with an active starter, fed, peaked, and ready to go. We're weighing everything on a scale because accuracy does matter with sourdough here. Add your water first, then your salt, and give it a quick mix with the fork until it's combined. Nothing complicated at all here, you're just waking everything up before the next step. Up to this point, this is exactly my regular sourdough recipe. Same starter, same water, same salt, but here's where it changes. We're adding cocoa powder and a little sugar directly into the mix and stirring until every clump is gone. I use Valrhona because the quality of your cocoa matters here. It's what gives this loaf its depth of flavor. And hydrating the cocoa powder this way, before the flour goes in, keeps the dough from getting overly dry. You don't want to skip this step. Now we add our flour, and from here, we're right back to the regular sourdough process. Same steps, same technique. We just added cocoa and sugar to transform the loaf. If you already know how to make sourdough, you already know how to make this. Once the flour is in, start with a fork and get it as incorporated as you can, then switch to your hands to finish it off. One thing you'll notice right away, this dough feels a little drier than your regular sourdough. That's the cocoa powder doing its job. It's thirsty and it's absorbed some of that liquid. Don't panic and don't add more water. It'll come together as we work it. And just like a regular sourdough, we're not trying to fully develop the dough here. Mix it until it just comes together, cover it, and let it rest for about an hour. The gluten will start doing its own work. Now for the chocolate. I went with large chunks that I chopped myself. And I want to be upfront with you about what that does to the loaf. You get these incredible, dense pockets of melted chocolate throughout, but the large pieces do affect the rise. It's still made a great loaf, just a different texture. If you want a more consistent open crumb like a traditional sourdough, go with chocolate chips. I wanted this to be really chocolatey, so I went big. But now you know the trade-off and you can make that call for yourself. This chocolate will go in later, right before we're ready to shape the loaves. For now, after that hour rest, we're going into our stretch and folds. I'm not counting sets or watching a timer here. I'm folding until the dough tells me it's ready. I want to feel it bounce back. I want to feel the tension building as I work it. When it feels tight and alive, it's done. We'll cover it back up and let it bulk ferment overnight. The long, slow rise is where the flavor develops. We'll just let it work. When I flip out the dough, you can see exactly what I mean. It's come together, it's holding its shape, and you can see it's tighter than when we started. That's the gluten development doing its job. That's what we're looking for. We're back the next morning, and you can see the dough has risen. We're going into one more set of stretch and folds, and this is where that chocolate goes in. We'll work it in slowly and deliberately, because those large chunks make this trickier than a regular fold. You want the chocolate distributed in a way that the loaf looks intentional when it's baked off, not just random with all the chocolate in one spot. Once we're happy with it, we're transferring to the work surface and cutting it in half. And now this is where it gets a little more technical. We're shaping, and what we're really after is a tight, smooth top layer. That's what gives you a beautiful crust and a good bloom on the score. Once it's shaped, we'll let it proof at room temperature while the oven heats up. If you went with chocolate chips instead of using the big chunks of chocolate, this whole step is a lot easier and you'll get a more consistent result once it's baked as well. Also, make sure you cover these while they're sitting and waiting for the oven to preheat. I used to use a damp kitchen towel, but I've switched to plastic wrap and I won't ever go back. It seals in all the moisture and you won't get that dry skin forming on top of the dough. I do all my sourdough baking in cast iron. It holds heat better than anything else, and it's what gives you that thick, crackly crust on the outside. Oil your pans well, add your loaves, and then we're going to score the top. And scoring isn't just for looks, it controls where the bread opens up during the bake. I make two cuts along the same line. That double cut gives you a deeper opening and a more dramatic bloom. Initially, we cook these with the lids on to trap that steam, but now we want to develop the crust, so we'll take the lid off. With a chocolate loaf, you can't go by color. It's already dark. You gotta go by feel. Dry, matte crust on top means it's done. These are coming out of the oven now. Look at that chocolate melting through. You can already see it in there. Normally I'd let a sourdough rest before cutting, but we're slicing into this one right now because I need to see that crumb and those pockets of melted chocolate. If you've been baking sourdough and you're ready to take it somewhere new, this is your next bake. If you enjoyed this, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We'd love to have you gather at our table.